We're here at RCBS, and in this video, we're going to help you understand how to optimize your RCBS Matchmaster powder dispenser. Hey guys, Gavin Gu here from UltimateReloader.com. I'm here at RCBS. I'm with Joe Dunning. What's up, Joe?
Not much. How you doing?
Good. Joe, you were on the product design team, powder dispensers, including Matchmaster, is that right?
Correct.
Right. Now, lots of interesting work, I'm sure, getting these machines figured out, how to optimize the firmware and the hardware. What I was hoping that you could do for us is to walk through some of the different types of powder, walk through some of the features on the physical features on the Matchmaster and how it's designed to dispense powder, kind of a cycle of operation, and then maybe how we can dig into some of these advanced parameters to kind of optimize charge behavior and charge times. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Let's do it. So we could start with the the powder types. There's 4 different powder types, as most of us are aware. There's 4 default settings that we have for people that just want to plug in the charge or the Matchmaster and go and get started. So you have a default 1, which is your powder 1 is your large extruded powder for like your 50 BMGs, Reloader 50, Reloader 33. You have a default setting, which is 2 powder 2. That's for more of your smaller extruded powders. Reloader 15, Varget kind of falls into that category.
A lot of powders in that space.
Yes, there is. And they actually, and sometimes those powders will actually go good and dispense 3 parameter, and that's basically for your ball type powders.
Okay.
So sometimes there's some overlap there. And then your last dispense setting is 4, which is for your flake type powders.
Okay.
And what the difference is on that is you're basically looking at you're going to target that, the Matchmaster knows that you're throwing in a larger extruded powder, so it's going to target that 400ths of a grain stop point. It's going to it's going to try to put the brakes on, because instead of running up to your target load of, let's say, 50 grains, it's going to put the brakes on at 49.96.
Okay.
So that way it starts braking, because you're going to have some overage, and it'll take you to 50.02 to 50.04.
And this is an interesting point you were telling me about. The Matchmaster advertises plus or minus 0.04.
Correct.
And that one of the reasons for that, the scale's technically capable of a little bit better than that, but some of the powder granules themselves weigh 0.04. So literally you'd have to cut them in half to get more accurate.
Exactly. We don't want to do that.
There's no tiny knife that comes out right now.
Not yet. Maybe that's in the next version, but yeah, right now.
Yep.
But that is the big one, and it's so the accuracy of the scale is 200ths of a grain. The resolution is 200ths of a grain. So it will, like in your powders, your flakes, and some of your small extruded, when you're running that setting like 2 and 3, you can get to that right on that target 50.00 or 50.02 and 49.98. But with a 1, you're traditionally going to kind of land at that 400ths of a grain, because each kernel is going to be around that 400ths of a grain.
So if you're running like a ball powder, you might get better than plus or minus 0.04.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, so that's the powders. Let's talk about the whole cycle of operation. It either detects the pan or you hit go. Tell me about what's happening each time you dispense a powder charge.
So the first thing that's going to happen, the large tube is going to rotate until it hits close to its target value, and then it's going to stop. The small tube will continue to turn, and it'll turn up until it reaches its target value. Once it starts the coarse trickle, it'll run coarse trickle until it gets to its preset parameter, and then the fine trickle will take over.
Where you might see 1 or 2 granules flying out per time, it does that tiny little...
That's your micro trickle, your fine trickle.
Yep. And you're as the scale, you're wondering, is 1 granule going to fall out or 2? And sometimes that's not totally predictable. But 2 granules of Varget is 0.04 approximately. So that still gets you in that window.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so that's what happens. And I did notice that both of them are turning at the beginning. It's kind of like
correct.
shooting out at the same time. That's where you're saying big one stops, the big one is for the bulk charge.
Yeah.
Little one keeps going until it gets to that coarse value, then it goes into the sort of microcharge mode to just get it that last little tiny bit. Okay, and so based on that, we can go through maybe how to optimize the settings that the machine is using when it goes through that cycle. Should we do that next?
Correct, yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So we've got the Matchmaster loaded with some Varget. We've got the RCBS app here. Why don't we kind of walk through a just sort of default dispensing experience?
So we already talked about the 4 default settings. Varget's kind of like in that slow to fast range, so we could actually, because it's a smaller extruded type powder, so we go ahead and hit slow, and we want to go ahead and go match, and we'll go ahead and go manual for now. And then we'll put in 50 grains, and let me get my stopwatch.
So we got Bluetooth here. That's how these two guys are communicating.
Correct. And you can see the light. The RCBS is illuminated. That good
Yep.
good indicator that you're connected. So we're done. Hit continue. It'll give me my preview, my parameters. If I got everything in there. If I don't, I can go
Yep.
back and edit. And then let's dispense.
Sends it over to the scale. Off and running. So there's your course,
Yep.
small
course
tube.
trickle.
Yep.
That's your micro, your fine trickle
Yep.
right there.
Neat. Yeah. With wind 0.04 now.
So
Getting
it
close.
should stop. So there it's, so yeah. So see how it went up to 98,
Yep.
200s, and we're right on. So you have a better chance of getting right on your target when you're in like 2 or 3 because you're looking at smaller powder types.
29 seconds.
So now that's kind of like a good default setting. It's not bad. But if we want to speed it up, let's go ahead and hit complete. And that's a batch summary. We'll go back to start dispense. I already have a custom parameter in here for Varget. I have a couple of them. Let's try one. And so let's go with this one here. I got this is a fast one. Let's see where we're at. And
Cool.
this might give us what we were talking about earlier, Gavin, as far as overshooting some of those parameters by going too fast. And let's see what happens. So dispense. There we go.
Okay, yeah, wow.
So it did. So they were over, right? So that was too
Yeah.
fast. So this one actually.
But in 11 seconds, I mean,
It's
that's
great,
a
yeah,
lot
but-
faster.
And then
Yeah.
we're only over, well, we're over, 200s to 400s,
Right.
we're getting over. But so that's the problem, like if you don't see every tube function, that's the problem you get into. Sometimes it'll throw good, and sometimes you'll be there, but sometimes not. So.
And there are a
that's-
lot of variables, including things like humidity and
Oh, exactly,
powder
yeah.
lot. And so
And then-
your mileage may vary.
Exactly.
Tweak
And then-
accordingly.
and then unit to unit even. So,
Right.
so the good thing about, so that's a preset parameter that I
Yep.
had in there. You can share those parameters. So if I go into powder settings, like just to give you an idea how we would go through that. So the one I just ran, let's say it was this one. So I can go into here and basically here's your parameters that it goes through. And there's actually instructions set in there for each parameter
Oh, cool.
explaining that parameter and what it does. And then when you plug the values in here, whatever you want to set for those certain parameters, it'll give you, it does the math for you and tells you how far it's going to go, run that cycle until it gets up to so far from the target load, and then it's going to stop. So it'll tell you what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And then you're done, and you get a good parameter in there. You can share it. You can go back to the screen here, and you can actually share those parameters. And then you can go and it's in your shared folder. So
Okay.
here's some parameters, custom parameters that are shared. And this is good because a lot of people that don't want to waste the time setting up the parameters.
Sure.
They can go pull some of these from their app and they can try them.
But if you understand how the machine operates and you
Oh, yeah.
understand the meaning of the parameters, then you can just sort of adjust them and hopefully off to the races, right?
Exactly. So when
Yeah.
you can see that whole function going on,
Yep.
then you kind of understand the parameters. After you go through it a few times, it starts to make sense because you can see the function of each parameter and what it's doing and how it's manipulating that tube. So now you're in control of manipulating those tubes to get this thing to do exactly what you want. I think the record on this thing is, plus or minus 400 per grain. I think there's throwing about 60, 70 grains of powder in 8 seconds.
Wow.
So 8 to 10 seconds, that's pretty good.
Nice. So that's awesome. And now that I have your cell phone number, maybe I'll be hitting you up to text me some of this stuff.
Yeah, I do it occasionally. I've had some conversations with, there's some people that don't really like to do the parameters, but once we have the conversation,
Yep.
go through it a few times, they're good with it and they understand it and they start doing it on their own. So.
Nice. Well, I think this definitely demonstrates just how much better the user experience can be when you have the option of running a companion app, right?
Exactly.
With the Bluetooth and the companion app, you have your instructions there. You can see everything graphically. You can use the little keyboard on your phone to type in numbers and all that, right? That's super awesome. But you can do this stuff through the button interface in the screen on the actual dispenser, correct?
Yeah, you can. It's a little bit more, it's not as clean as the user
Yep.
interface, a little different, but there's in the instructions that kind of list each parameter and then the value that you're plugging in for that parameter,
Right.
what it represents and what its resultant is going to be, right? So that's where the app is nice because it does the math for you, and here you kind of have to do the math yourself.
Nice. Well, thank you, Joe.
Hey, you bet, Gavin.
Great job on the Matchmaster. We use ours all the time. What we'd like to know from you is, are you using the RCBS app, and are you running a Matchmaster? What's your experience been, and what kind of tips and tricks have you learned along the way to help dispense powders at maximum speed with minimal overthrows? Drop a comment and we'll start that discussion down in the comments section. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching Ultimate Reloader on TV and want to take advantage of free resources, exclusives, and hot deals, just hold your camera phone up to the QR code, tap on the link, fill out the information, boom, you're getting Ultimate Reloader emails. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. Thanks again for watching.